In 2017-18, I had the honour and privilege of serving as the 690th Lord Mayor of London, an ancient role that dates back, in fact, to 1185. And that year was, as I often describe, a wonderful whirlwind of activity, often engaged in centuries-old city civic ceremony, gold coaches, a tricorn hat, pairs and pairs of breeches, and many pairs of 60 denier tights. But at the same moment, engage in the modern purpose of the mayoralty, and that is acting as a key spokesperson and a principal ambassador for and on behalf of UK's financial and professional services sector.
So the main job is to promote London as a financial hub. And during your tenure as Lord Mayor of City of London in 2017 and 2018, you promoted the idea of engaging with China financially, and you travelled extensively in the country. Looking back, what do you see as the progress that have made, and in what areas do you think both countries or both parties should work on further?
Yes, it's a very good question, and I've seen a lot of change over the course of my engagement with China, and I would immediately point to RMB internationalization, green finance, fintech, and perhaps Stock Connect too. Perhaps looking at the UK-China relations and as it relates to finance in particular, a little saddened and disappointed, if I have to be honest, by the unhelpful direction of travel of UK-China bilateral relations over the last 4 years, but really delighted and pleased with the change that we've witnessed over the last 6 months. And that is beginning to bear economic fruit for both UK and China. And perhaps to further highlight that fact, really pleased to see in this year's and indeed recently launched CCC UK report the positive attitudes towards the UK business environment that almost doubled when comparing companies completing the survey pre and post our summer 2024 general election.
So ever since the Labour government took office in July last year, we have witnessed a plethora of high-level exchanges between the two countries, and you attended the latest China-UK economic and financial dialogue with UK's Finance Minister Rachel Reeves. It's a mechanism that promotes and facilitates the direct engagement between China's Vice Premier and the UK's Chancellor of the Exchequer. What were your takeaways from the visit?
I start by saying it was an incredibly important step forward in the bilateral relationship. It was fantastic to join senior business leaders both from Britain and from Chinese financial institutions, and there was significant outcome across financial services. But importantly, beyond, outcomes also included agreements in areas such as agriculture, and there are plans now being developed for an upcoming JETCO in the summer. So overall, I would say that the collaboration was very significant, and of course it will benefit both the UK and China domestic growth agendas, both important agendas for China and for the UK.
And the Labour government is trying to reassess and audit its relations with China right now. Do you think the recent high-level exchanges will facilitate or solidify London's role as the financial centre?
Yes, I think that picking up this point about London being an attractive place to invest, and in order to leverage what I often describe as sort of the emerging opportunities in that space, and therefore investment is key and crucial, and that's beyond simply financial and professional services. So I put that into areas such as infrastructure, renewable energy, digital innovation, healthcare, education, public services, culture and creativity, all important areas, and areas of great opportunity, again, for UK and China to collaborate. But that must be facilitated, that level of investment must be facilitated through wider, broader international collaboration, whether that's with our longer-term partners of Europe and the USA, but also with China and other emerging economies within the Indo-Pacific region. The UK must remain open. It's been doing that for 1,000 years. I mentioned earlier the importance of free trade, and it needs to commit to remaining open, commit to that concept of free trade and look to the long term.
And do you think free trade now is being interrupted?
Clearly, there are changes in the geopolitical landscape at this moment in time, and as one who's been an advocate of free trade throughout the course of my career, and particularly, as I say, over the last decade or so, I think we're going to find a much more challenging environment as we trade going forward. Ultimately, I think free trade will be the winner.
Free trade, properly, as you said, would be the winner. The European Union has slammed additional tariffs on Chinese-made EVs. Do you think that could give the UK and China more collaboration in the future?
I hope so. Look, I think the progress made by China as it relates to that particular sector has been remarkable in the last 5 to 10 years or so, and slightly coming back to the point I made earlier, in resolving these issues globally, we need all of us to play our part, and China has an important part to play.
So, looking back across your 20 years of engagement with China, what are the key lessons you would like to share with us?
Gosh, that's a big and very good question. But perhaps I would focus on 3 or 4 things. Legacy is key. Trust is absolutely critical, and I'm delighted to see that trust is being reintroduced back into the system, with a concept of focusing on shared values. But probably the key point I'd choose to make is that it is important that the long game outwits the short term. Life is a long game. Recognise that long game, and we will all succeed for the future.
Yeah, it's very interesting you mentioned trust being reintroduced between the two countries. And during China's Foreign Minister Wang Yi's visit to the UK, he also mentioned rebuilding the trust between the two countries. But it is much easier said than done, isn't it?
It is, and I'm afraid in the game of trust, critical to bilateral relations right the way across the world, trust arrives on foot and leaves on a galloping horse. We need to invest considerably to retain, maintain and develop that level of trust.